Daily Devotion with Pastor Balla for October 28th, 2022 from John chapter 11, The Sign of God, Part 1. Previously, I mentioned that Jesus wasn't quite ready to be arrested and crucified. There were still things that Jesus had to do. Now we move into John chapter 11, which was one of those things that Jesus had to do, and it was actually a tough thing for Jesus to do. So let's begin with verse 1. Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. Verse 3, So the sisters sent to Jesus, saying, Lord, he whom you love is ill. But when Jesus heard it, he said, This illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. These words that Jesus used regarding Lazarus' illness are very similar to the words that Jesus used to the man who was born blind. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. And you might be thinking, who wants to have a physical illness or disability so that God can be glorified? We may think it doesn't seem fair, but we need to realize, like the man born blind, he now got to see Jesus as the Christ, the Messiah, meaning he now has eternal life. So what's better? To have a good life now for 70, 80, or even 100 years, or eternal life with Jesus for the rest of eternity? Even though physical illnesses and disabilities are not easy to live with, I would still rather live with Jesus for the rest of eternity than to give that up. Verse 5. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, Let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and are you going there again? Notice that Jesus purposefully stayed 2 days longer. He didn't rush to the scene to cure Lazarus. Oh, by the way, no, Jesus was not afraid of the Jews in Judea. Verse 9, Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in a day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him. After saying these things, he said to them, Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. Verse 12, the disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. Now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought that he meant taking rest in sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died. Remember, Jesus had purposefully delayed so that Lazarus would die. Jesus healed many people while he was here on earth. But Jesus had to make a teaching point, as he would now explain in the next verse, which was the reason why he delayed a couple days. Verse 15, Jesus said, And for your sake I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. So Thomas, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, Let us also go that we may die with him. So the teaching point that Jesus needs to make for us and the disciples is that God can and does indeed raise the dead. Remember the delay. Lazarus would have been dead for some time now. We didn't hear about it in the Gospel of John, but Jesus had already raised the dead, but they weren't dead for very long. But with Lazarus, there is a couple of days, and before Jesus even gets there, it now becomes day 4. So join me again tomorrow as we continue this narrative. God's peace and many blessings be with you, and thank you for listening. And please take an opportunity to share this message with others. If you have enjoyed these daily devotions, please consider making a donation to Peace Lutheran Church, 24024 West Main Street, Plainfield, Illinois, 60544. Thank you again for listening.